Do you want to get some great tips on how to get healthy? I'm Jason Hodge, and I'll be right back after this with 4 tips that I think you're going to love. Okay, so getting healthy. What exactly is getting healthy? And I mean, everybody has their idea of what healthy is. For some, it may be losing an extra 5 pounds. For some, it may be losing an extra 500. It all depends. For some, it may be a matter of being able to get up in the morning without feeling exhausted. While for others, it may be able to get a good sleep at night. So whatever it is for you, I've got some tips that I think you're going to love. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure you're going to absolutely love. Let me give them to you. Okay, first thing is you want to start with the end goal in mind. Now, I know when people say this, a lot of times people think like the whole big picture. And well, that is good to have the big picture in mind, but I don't want you to do something that's going to overwhelm yourself. So yes, you could have your big picture, but put it on the shelf for right now. And instead of looking at the big picture, look at something that's going to move you in the direction of the big picture and have maybe a smaller picture within the big picture, okay? Let me give you a good example of that. Say, for example, that, okay, yes, you ultimately want for your goal to be that you are totally in perfect health. You know, you're no longer wearing quadrifocals and you've got the extra 1,000 pounds off and you don't really know how to do that right now. Well, so you may make a micro big picture, and the micro big picture is that, okay, you know, ultimately you want to do that, what I just said. And so you're going to step it back to where you are right now. So you'll say, okay, let me see. If I can get up every single day at 5 o'clock in the morning and maybe walk up and down my steps 3 times if you have steps. Because you're not doing that now, so you just want to consistently do that. I was at a hangout this past Friday. And on the hangout, Antonio Thornton talked about a process that he used to get himself into action. And not action like how a lot of people think about it, you know, when they say take massive action, but action where it was consistent micro actions. He calls it ICMA. Immediate, consistent, micro actions. And when he talked about that, a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, you know, I think this is the key to quite a few things. If we could commit to something small on a daily basis and accomplish the small thing on a daily basis and then continue to add to those small things, before we know it, we're getting a lot of things done that are moving us in the direction that we want to be. So I was thinking that that would be a perfect scenario to apply to health. If you could take just a few simple goals. Now, you may have 100 that you may need to do. But if you're not doing any of those 100 right now, take one of them and say, okay, so for the next day or 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 10, whatever it is, I'm going to do this one thing consistently. It may be a matter of drinking your water every day. Maybe you don't drink any water right now. You just drink sodas or teas or coffee or whatever. And you say to yourself, I want to make sure that I consistently drink 4 glasses of water. Now, 8 glasses is what they say is the norm. But if you're not drinking any, 4 is a good start. Hey, 1 is a good start. Just to tell yourself every day I'm going to get that 1 glass in. Because at a certain point, your mind's going to kick into gear and say, you know, that actually is pretty easy. Maybe I can get 2 in. And you start getting your 2 in. And then later on you say, hey, that was pretty easy too. Maybe I'll double that up and let me get my 4 in. And before you know it, you're getting your 4 in and then you're getting your 8 in. So now you've accomplished a consistent activity of getting 8 glasses of water in per day, and it was painless because you moved into it in an organic manner. It wasn't something that was taxing. It wasn't something that you had to use severe willpower to do. It was something that you were able to do just because it made sense, you found that it was easy, you were already in the habit, you developed a micro habit of getting the 1 glass in, and so then you just kind of built on it. It's kind of like building a water muscle. You work out that one water muscle, and you continue to work it out until you're able to lift more, to add more. And now, next thing you know, you've got the full 8, and you're feeling really good. You start feeling benefits in your body, health-wise, and you start saying, hey, you know what? I want to start exercising. Okay, so I committed to walking up and down the flight of steps, 3 times when I get up in the morning. Maybe I could do it 4 times. Do it 4 times, that gets easy. You say, hey, you know what? Maybe I could do it 10 times. Now, if you noticed, the scenario I just gave you did not require that you go to the gym to get a membership, which can stump a lot of people. Because in your mind, you may think, in order for me to get healthy, I need to go and buy a membership at a gym. Well, I may not have the finances for that right now, or I may not have the time. I may not have the willpower to get up every morning to get out to the gym. Or I may have kids that I've got to deal with them, and it's going to be a lot of coordination. I don't really want to go through the coordination when it comes in. So you've got this hassle in your mind when it comes to working out. But if you're simply walking up and down the steps at your house, you don't have to go to the gym for that. Say, for example, that you don't have steps at your house. What can you do? Well, you may say, okay, I saw this really cool thing on YouTube. And in this exercise, the person took their towels. It was just regular towels. And they had a hardwood floor. And you could do it on any slick surface. If you have a carpeted floor, then you can do the reverse. Instead of having towels that are going to provide friction to keep you stuck on the carpet, you could put plastic bags around your feet. Slip them on like slippers or shoes. And you could do this very thing with the plastic bags where your feet and legs can slide around. And then you're going to do like you're climbing stairs or running in place, but you're down on all fours and moving your legs back and forth. I'll see if I could find that video and post it on my blog so you could see what I'm talking about. Excellent exercise, helps you build the core strength, get your abdominals engaged, get your back muscles engaged. No impact because, you're not jumping up and down in anything. So if you've got weak knees, you can help strengthen your knees in the process while you're working out, while you're getting the exercise in. So again, another micro activity that you do and you just build upon. You may say, okay, I'm going to do 3 of them right now. And then next thing you know, hey, 3 was pretty easy. Let me do 4. Let me start pushing myself a little bit more. Let me do 10. Let me do 20. Let me do 100. So now you're consistently doing these things every day. You've got your water, you're getting up on time, getting that oxygen into your system, and you're doing those, I don't even know what to call them, but those exercises. You're doing those, right? Before you know it, you're adding more things to your equation, and you're enjoying it because you're creating a habit and you're seeing the beneficial results from them. Now, I'm going to give you a quick scenario. It was years ago. I was working with a client. I used to do a lot of personal chefing. I approached it a lot different, though. My personal chefing, I wasn't interested in creating pretty poison. Right? I had no interest in creating foods for folks that would taste great, but ultimately kill them. I mean, seriously. A lot of times as chefs, we get real creative with things and we start using all these exotic ingredients. And don't get me wrong, I'm a foodie and I love seeing that stuff. I love tasting the different things, the culinary endeavors. But what I don't love doing and what I don't do is cook those things for folks that I am contracted by or from or who or the grammar police. You're gonna have a field day on this on this broadcast because I'm throwing my words around. May or may not make sense, but you get what I'm saying. So the folks that I used to do work for, I would not do the work that I knew ultimately was going to cause them to gain excess weight, was going to clog up their arteries, was going to damage their bodies, their physiology, their mentality and all of that over the long run. Because I didn't want to be responsible for that. And also it's not necessary. Mainly because when you know what you're doing in the kitchen and you understand how to put together ingredients that are not only healthy, but actually are tasty, you find that you don't need to sacrifice health for flavor. The two can go right hand in hand. You could have flavorful, satisfying meals that are actually healthy as well. Really great taste, really healthy. So because of that, it makes absolutely no sense as a chef for me to go and create something that's going to kill you if I can create something that's going to help you live and taste great. So that's my focus. Okay, so that was number one. Start with your end goal in mind. Build little small end goals to reach to the bigger end goal that you're doing consistently in order to get to your end goal objective. Second thing is build backwards from your end goal to where you are now. So we talked about that briefly. Third, you're going to set easy plans to accomplish the small, consistent steps. Now, what do I mean by a plan? Well, a plan is a way that you can take the excess pressure off of your mind, and you're putting it's like a blueprint. So a good way to do a plan, like for what I do, is I'll put something on my calendar in my smartphone. Now, if you don't have a smartphone, you can use a chalkboard, alarms on your kitchen range, your stove range, whatever works for you. Okay. I'll let you figure that out. You're intelligent enough to figure that out. However, I would take alerts or alarms, put them on my phone. And that way at certain times of the day, my alarm would go off. And when the alarm went off, it would have a message on there that told me what the alarm was for. Oh, okay, so this alarm is for me to get my water in, or this alarm is for me to get that report done, or this alarm is for me to, whatever it is, I had an alarm for it. And that way, I didn't have to keep that inside of my brain. I could totally focus on what it is that I'm working on at the time without having my brain cluttered with, oh, I need to make sure I remember this. All right. And I had to do that because I keep so many things going that if I don't have a system in place to remind me, then I will absolutely forget it, or the worst part is getting overwhelmed by all of the stuff colliding in my head. So I put a plan in place, make sure that I can just look at it or have the alert ring. And then I say, oh, okay, I got to get to this. So put a plan in place in order to help you accomplish the small, consistent steps. However that looks for you, go ahead and go for it. The last one, number 4, is to document everything. Now, I cannot tell you how important the documentation is. Now, I don't want it to be something that is, a hard task, overwhelming task, or anything like that. However, let me explain why you want to document things. Now, how many of you remember when you didn't know how to tie your shoe? Now, it's probably going to be a lot since a lot of people use slip-ons nowadays and aren't tying their shoes like how we used to coming up. But for those of you who remember what it was to tie your shoes and what it was before you knew how to tie your shoes, a lot of times it's hard to remember when you didn't know how to do certain things. Some people have been cooking so long that it's hard to remember when you didn't know how to cook. Or when you didn't know how to, do a certain exercise technique or dance routine or whatever it is, whatever your bent is that you do well now, there's a time when you didn't do it so well, when you were just learning and becoming proficient at it. And so what happens is that when you become proficient at something, you tend to forget those struggle days. And also, you take a lot of things for granted. So when you're documenting your process at the beginning, what you do is you encapsulate or you create a time capsule of where you started. And that way, as you get better and you look back at your beginning, you derive a tremendous amount of encouragement. Because then you say, wow, I started here. A year later, I'm 100 pounds lighter. I'm healthier. I'm not taking these meds anymore. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing the other. You know, all of these things you're able to look back and see the benefits from them. All right. I've got many clients over the years. I don't do this type of work anymore, but many clients over the years who have made tremendous gains, tremendous strides in their health just by a few tweaks. And one of the things that I would have them do is to document the whole process. I had a whole checklist that, it was a built out thing that I would have them go through and check out. And it was, I don't know, probably about 700 line items. I know that sounds a bit exorbitant, but it was actually easy the way that I had it broke down into systems. So they knew what was going on in their system from head to toe. And the reason for that is that I told them, and just like I'm telling you, you should know your body, your system, your health, your bents, your habits. You should know yourself better than any doctor, any therapist, anybody else. And that way, if you are of the mindset to go into an allopathic doctor, your traditional, modern day medicine, drug medicine doctor, and they ask you a question, you should be able to give them a full breakdown of what you're going through, why you're going through it, what the whole process is. They shouldn't have to play the guessing game with you, because guessing games, when it comes to medicine, open the door for you to get a wrong diagnosis, misdiagnosed. And then, I don't know if you know this, but there are so many things that are called iatrogenic deaths. And those are deaths that are caused inside of a hospital or medical environment based on the mistakes that are made. So why put yourself in that position? Know your body, know yourself, know your health, know your habits, so that you can give a full report of what it is that you are into, so that they can govern their protocol accordingly. Okay, so you're going to help yourself out by knowing your own habits better. So that's why I say document everything. As you document, you also begin to see, hey, you know what? When I started this, I used to have these type of seizures or whatever. And that would happen like 7 days or 7 times a day. Well, I've noticed that since I've been making these adjustments, these changes, I noticed that since I stopped eating this and replaced it with this, I only get the seizures twice a day. And then weeks and weeks passed, and the next thing you know, hey, I've only had the seizure once today, but it was very mild. And then more weeks passed, and then you're like, hey, wait a minute, I stopped getting the seizures. Wow. And then you forget that you used to get the seizures. So you start to revert unless you have documented it to remember, hey, I used to get seizures all the time. Hey, I used to get massive headaches, migraines. Hey, I used to be constipated. Hey, I used to only go to the bathroom once a week, which I know people like that. And now I go 3 times, 4 times a day. You see, all of these things, when your body kicks into gear and gets healthy, it's very easy to forget when you were not healthy. Just like it's very easy to forget when you didn't know how to tie your shoe, or when you didn't know how to write in cursive or write, in regular print. Those things can easily slip your mind because it is natural for your body to naturally be in health. So once you go back to your natural state, the intended state when you were created, once you go back to that, you forget that there was anything before that. It just becomes the norm, which it is supposed to be the norm. But if you don't remember what got you to the norm, you can easily take it for granted. So let me recap that. The great tips on getting healthy is to start with your end goal in mind, to build backwards to where you are, okay, where you're currently at right now. So you go from your end goal to where you are now. That's you're building back. And then you're going to set easy plans to accomplish the small, consistent steps to get you to that end goal objective, right? And you're going to remember, break those things down into small, achievements to get to that bigger picture. And then you're going to document everything. Start small. So you may say in the documentation process, let me first take a snapshot, head to toe snapshot, and that way I've got that in the archives. Then I can go back and start, making notations on these different things. Oh yeah, I used to have severe pain in my elbow, tinnitus in my knee, arthritis in my big toe, or whatever. Okay, you start breaking those things down. And then you just continue to add on to that. And then you get to the process where you're in a rhythm and you can go through, check, circle, and, highlight different areas, and you know exactly what those things mean. And then, last thing on that documentation, make sure that you create systems and processes. When you have a system in place, just like having that alarm clock or the alerts coming up on your phone, the systems keep you from having to use mental bandwidth in order to make sure that you succeed in accomplishing your goal. You don't have to remember anything when you put a system in place. You just have to follow the system. You're basically painting by numbers. You're painting by numbers your health. You're painting by numbers your success. You're painting by numbers whatever it is that you want to make work consistently so that, not only you can get through it, but others can follow you in that process or help you along because they know where you're going and they know how to now help or pitch in. So there you have it. Hopefully that information has found you well and that you are able to take it, digest it, and say, hey, you know what? That was actually really good. I can implement these things. I hope you were taking notes. With all that said, I am Jason Hodge. If you want more information, you want to connect with me, pop on over to my blog, and I'm going to give you a shortened link. It's bit.ly, that's bit.ly/2 quotes. Now, why am I sending you to the 2 quotes when obviously I was talking about health? Well, the reason is because I'm sending you into a certain place in my blog, and there's 2 quotes on there that I want everybody to see before they go anywhere else in my blog. Because these 2 quotes, one is one that I wrote, and another one is from Jimmy Dean, and it's dealing with success. And I think that it's very important that when you're taking on any endeavor, that you have the right mindset for it. So I'm sending you to my blog, going through bit.ly/2 quotes. That's the number 2 and quotes, plural, so that you can read those, internalize them, maybe contemplate them for a while before you go any further in there. All right. So I will catch you on the next broadcast. You have a great one.